Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot for February 19th. So a couple things. First of all, the house is officially now sold. All the conditions have been lifted and the house, for sale sign or the sold sign goes up. In the next several weeks, my videos are going to be sporadic just because there's like a lot to get done. Not to mention the fact I'm still looking for the perfect property. So I really encourage those of you who have not hit the little bell by the subscribe word, click that on because that way you'll get notifications whenever videos get released. And I just, at this point, I can't kind of give you any sort of a schedule. So that would be just a good thing if you're wanting to stay on top of what gets released as I move through the next several weeks. So today, because it's Friday, I decided that I'm going to do a reading called just looking for good news. Just give me some good news. I don't care what it is. I don't care what area it is. I just want to be able to make it so that you can start your weekend with good news. So here we go. Let's see what we can find out. And as most of you who are aware, I do, even when I'm reading the cards, I'm actually channeling. So don't be surprised if this message is more channeled than tarot. Come on down. I have a question. For those of you in the United States, stay warm. This is crazy, the weather. We are finally here coming out of an incredible, like a 14-day long deep freeze. There were times that the temperatures with the wind chill hit like 50 degrees below zero. And for people on the Fahrenheit scale, that actually equates to about minus 58 degrees. So cold, like just really cold. So stay warm, especially those of you in Texas who are in the middle of an absolute disaster. I don't even know how many of you in Texas might be able to hear me because it sounds like you've got way better things to do, like try to stay warm and find water than listen to this. But, the storms are big, they're ongoing. Everybody, please stay safe and warm. And honestly, if you are not used to driving in the snow, don't drive. It's tricky. I know this. I live in Alberta. So just be extra careful. You can't be sort of casual when you're getting freezing temperatures and there's ice and snow. All right, good news. Let's look for some good news here. So the question is, Spirit, what can you tell us that falls into the category of good news? Here we go. Good News Friday, Good News Friday, Good News Friday. Okay. All right. So let's start with this pertains to the Biden-Harris administration. So they're going strong. They tomorrow, I guess, will be 1 month since the inauguration. They have gone gangbusters. Things that the Trump administration tried to do to hamstring them incoming, things like not giving them any information on COVID, et cetera. Hang on. All right, sorry about that. So anything that they tried to do to just screw up, put the new administration sort of on the defensive, trying to scramble things for them as they, came in, those dirty tricks didn't work, okay? Because what the Biden-Harris team represents is wisdom, experience, political understanding, and they're smart enough and clever enough to ensure that they surround themselves with incredibly, incredibly powerful and well-positioned people. It's interesting because on the one hand, they really want to sort of, they want to sort of take things back to a place of normal, but they're really not interested in going back in time. They're interested in taking the very best from the past in terms of strategies, how government works, how to negotiate, etc., and sort of modernize it, if you will, move it into the future in a way that, sort of keeps the United States abreast of situations and circumstances going forward. So that's like really, really good news. Now, the whole experience that you guide the last 4 years, etc., it was the opportunity to really take a deep dive and take a close look at the United States and see maybe what wasn't as perfect as you thought it was, or what really doesn't work given a certain set of circumstances. Now, so what's happening now is that exploration has been done. So this is now the time that you're going to start incorporating things, putting things together, making the changes and the plans to secure and solidify going forward. So that is like a really, really good thing. Alrighty. Sorry, I apologize for the constant interruptions here, but the realtor was here, putting the sold sign on the sign and taking the lockbox off the door, and so she's gone now. We should be able to carry on. Okay, now, this is one of the things that you want to remember going forward, is all of the crazy that has happened, and frankly, not only in the United States, but I will say especially in the United States, what those sets of circumstances have done between COVID and the horrible weather that's going on globally, just not in the United States, is it's shining a flashlight, if you will, on what needs to be prioritized, where the money should flow, where it's going to do the most good. The other thing it's pointing out with startling clarity is, I almost want to say like the relationship maybe between donors and politicians, the backroom deals, all of that stuff. And I mean, not every bit of it is going to come to the surface, but frankly, a lot of it is. And that's like a good thing because you've now experienced what happens when things go, really off the rails. So part of what is going on here, I mean, maybe it has to do with the whole Age of Aquarius thing. Maybe it's just timing. I don't know. Maybe it's astrological. I don't know. All I know is that what the experiences of the last year in particular have taught people or pointed out to people is those who are among us who really want to stay secluded in a past that was privileged for some and horrendous for others. I call these kinds of people dinosaurs, right? Because their thought processes are not allowing them literally to move forward or to step into the future. They're clinging so tight to the past. And let me tell you, you've got a lot of politicians that do that, okay? And they're counting on that. And what they're not understanding is the world is changing around them and they can either jump on board or not. But the good news is that the United States is starting to make tracks to make that happen. There's, it's just it's a cleaning out, if you will, of that which doesn't work. And there's, of course, the trump card for that which will work, for that which will bring abundance and prosperity and growth. So you have that. So that's like good news just as a general overview for right now. Let's see what else we can find out here. Mhm. I think I want to look at COVID because, of course, that's always an ongoing concern. Here we go. Good news, COVID. Good news, COVID. Good news, COVID. So, one of the universal cards for sickness or retreat. And of course, the Nine of Cups is a card of, happiness and contentment and feeling emotionally satisfied and secure, etc. So these two cards in some ways really say it all. The illness in whatever way is being forced to retreat. And as that happens, more and more people are going to be more just secure feeling, not only about being safe, but just feeling a little bit less like their world is completely imploding in ways nobody understands. Yeah. All right. So there have been some delays in terms of the manufacturers being able to get the vaccines out where they need to go. And of course, now in the United States, you have the additional problem of the fact that the stuff actually, even if it's in state, it's having a hard time getting transported because of the cold weather and snow, ice, whatever. But overall, generally speaking, what you have is you guys have, I think Biden announced it was 300 million vaccines. I think by the end of July will be on tap. I know Canada also is set to experience a increase. They're projecting now here in Canada that by the end of June, I think about half of the population will be vaccinated. So it's going to start moving forward. And again, the thing is, especially again for the United States, because Donald Trump tried to destroy everything, that period of time, even though it feels a little scary and you're getting concerned because things are getting held up, don't worry about it. Part of what's going on is that delay allows for more clarity, more efficiency, and frankly, a little bit more time and focus being put into how they're actually going to distribute the vaccine and get it to the vast number of people it needs to get to. So things are moving forward, and it's a funny thing because the Biden administration is sort of really clever about not making announcements until things are just done. And so what happens is when they make these announcements, it's like always like shock and awe, right? It's like, oh my God, we've rejoined the Paris Accord. Oh my God, we're negotiating with Iran. Oh my God, we're going to look at, oh, sorry, my head went blank. The Justice Department, we're going to look at immigration, we're going to look at this, we're going to look at that. It is how he is doing the work, and that's what he can do because he has amazing, amazing people in key positions who know what the heck they're doing. And so COVID in particular is going to roll out. There's a real awareness of monitoring what they have, what they don't have, taking into consideration how this stuff is being distributed, etc. So I want to say honestly, now listen, I'm not mitigating the fact that there are some variants out there that are frankly, starting to really get a toehold. But overall, I have to say, it looks like from this point forward, the whole COVID situation is going to sort of settle down a little bit. and more, you're going to start seeing very, very efficient ways of moving towards the goal. And I do know that it was announced the other day that the Biden administration, because it was like a million vaccines a day in the first 100 days, but apparently they are exceeding that target. So, and that's okay, right? I mean, that's like a really, really good thing. So, COVID does not look like it is going to be something that is insurmountable. And again, I mean, Trump showed up again. I'm really going to have to meditate and see if I can reconfigure the meaning of this card, because I don't want him forever, ever, ever showing up in every reading I do, because in some cases I don't think it necessarily applies. But for now, again, it goes back to everything he tried to screw up, everything he did because he was only focused about his own concerns. Those things are getting corrected. And listen, let me tell you, your government, they stepped into more of a disaster than they were expecting. And let me tell you, they were expecting a disaster. They simply rolled up their sleeves and got to work. And ultimately, they're going to end up in a really strong, victorious position because they're doing the work and it's having the right effect. Alrighty, so let's take a look at the Republicans. Now, I am cognizant of the fact that perhaps what we might consider good news may not necessarily be good news for the Republicans, but let's just take a bit of a look and just see overall what's going on in their little world. Okay. Republicans going forward, Republicans going forward, Republicans going forward. Okay. So slowly but surely, a little bit at a time, the Republicans are going to really realize that they need to figure out if they're going to be the party of Trump or they're going to rebirth themselves as a new Republican Party. You're going to see Republicans in Congress switching to an independent status. Those who can't tolerate the whole Trump thing, you're going to see a lot of these guys, governors included in that, are going to start just dropping their party affiliation and becoming independents. And the people are for the most part, going to actually be okay with that. The reality is they had the White House. They had it all. And it just ended in a disaster. Their hearts are literally broken and shattered. And worse, people's trust in them, people's faith in them, people being prepared and willing to believe what they say has really, really taken an incredibly hard hit. And people are just sick of it, right? This is what happens when you're in a situation where things are just perpetually bad, right? It's bad news and bad timing and just nothing is working out. Everything is a disaster, which would be the last 4 years. You kind of get numb and you just sort of start to take what's going on almost like a normal. Right? Oh, well, this is just the way it is. Well, now what you have is you have a new administration riding in, and they're reminding everybody exactly what normal governing looks like. And so people who supported the Republicans, but yet are on the bad end of their policies, which frankly is almost all of the Republicans except for the big name donors, they're starting to see things going very, very well in a way that Trump was not able to accomplish, and the Republicans apparently were completely incapable of moving forward. So they're getting good and fed up. So you're going to see some real breaking apart. And again, you're going to see those sort of dinosaurs, those people with those old ideas where they're not willing to move forward because they're so entrenched in the past. You're going to see more and more of them falling by the wayside, okay? Now, Rush Limbaugh is a good example, and of course, you know, he has passed, and we, of course, do not wish him any ill, but we understand that he is going to have to do life reviews, and he is going to have to objectively look at his life and where it brought him and where it took him. So, but my point is some of those dinosaurs are dropping away. Either they're passing on, they're leaving politics, whatever it is, you're going to see a thinning out, if you will, of that kind of personality and that kind of attitude. And then, and being a dinosaur has nothing to do with age, right? I mean, you know, I don't know, Grassley and Hawley sort of have a lot of the same thoughts, right? They're both Republicans. They both stand for a lot of the same things. So it's not about age, right? It's just about what you're prepared to accept and not accept, how you think things through. So the Republican Party, going forward, is going to have an incredibly hard time getting rid of the albatross that not only was Trump, but more the albatross of how they behaved when Trump was in office, how they behaved when Trump was leaving office. And, you know, this is the thing. As the Republicans discovered, okay, and only by a hair, I will grant you, but they did discover that it's very difficult to take away benefits that the American people like, okay, so that was the Obamacare, right? The Affordable Care Act. They weren't able to squash that because once you give people benefits, they're really reluctant to say, okay, it's okay, you just take these away from me. And so what you're going to see with the Biden administration is not only is there going to be healthcare reform, but there's going to be some really amazing employment opportunities coming forward, like whole industries. There's going to be all kinds of, you know, benefits, whether it is increased wages for teachers or better working conditions, whatever it is, they're going to start seeing all of these benefits coming to them. And they're going to have a very hard time continuing to justify why the Republicans should have their attention and their vote. Because Biden is doing a much better job, and he's being inclusive, and he's not, you know, he's not doing what Trump did, which was like, well, if you don't love and adore me, you're nothing to me, and I'm going to do everything I can to sabotage you, right? I mean, what kind of juvenile behavior is that? And more importantly, like, why on earth? You know, and I know a lot of people think that Trump has a lot of dirt on the senators, and that's why they sort of bow down to him. I'm more inclined to think that Putin has dirt on the senators. And perhaps they fear or they think maybe that somehow Trump has gotten a hold of it. You know, this is the thing about Trump, right? He's not smart enough to hold a secret, right? So if he knew stuff, I think that he would be spilling his guts. I mean, it certainly didn't take him very long to hand off Secret Service stuff or national security information, I guess it was, to, you know, Russia, right, to Kislyak. So I don't believe that he actually knows a lot, because I don't actually think he's smart enough to keep quiet about what he knows. Okay. I want to take a look at returning to school, again, especially for the people in the United States. Now, I am not clear, and I don't have clarity on what states have their schools open, what states are doing remote learning. I haven't been following, frankly, that close enough to actually know. So we're going to keep this fairly broad. Okay, and so I can tell you that here in Alberta, part of what has happened is that, the older grades, right, are doing almost all, in fact, of their remote learning, or they're learning by remote, except if there are, hands-on things that need to be dealt with. Both of my daughters, as I think I've told you, are in university, and just given what they're practicing or what they're doing, they actually have been out sort of in public. One of them is just about to graduate as a teacher, and she has been doing her practicum in classrooms with little kids. And little kids don't have to wear masks out here. But yet it is, frankly, a little surprising that there really are not instances of a lot of COVID sort of, in the schools and really impacting things. I don't know, is that because they're doing a really good job with social distancing and hand washing? Well, I guess maybe, but I don't know. Try to tell me that you can do social distancing with kids in grade, 1. They're not going to social distance. They're not creatures of social distancing, right? So I just feel like, well, you need every bit of every little bit of safety in place. It also feels as if you have your state or your board of educations or whatever they're doing, if they are working clearly and honestly for the people and to make things safe and better, then I think you're going to see a big improvement there too. So let's just take a general overview of the United States school system. So good news, return to school. Good news, return to school. Good news, return to school. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are teachers. I have viewers who are teachers or ex-teachers, and I know it's scary. Trust me. I had a doctor running around with kids in grade 1 and 2 and 3. I understand concern. So there are going to be things put into place to help shore up, if you will, the safety of people returning to school who have not yet returned to school. You're also going to see school boards receiving what they need to some degree to find a way to I don't know, like spread out the dollars for the biggest bang for their buck so that schools can get the most that they can possibly get done. But part of what you're going to be dealing with or you're going to be seeing is there's still going to be worry. There's still going to be stress. And frankly, that's going to carry on until a lot more schools are back into regular learning and apocalypses sort of don't happen in the schools, right? And then slowly but surely, you're going to get people feeling a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more relaxed. We've been doing the social distancing thing now for a year, although if you live in a very red state, I'm sure that's been hit and miss. But you're going to see sort of a bit of a coming together, and people are simply not going to feel as hamstrung. They're not going to feel as if the situation is a disaster, not to mention the fact that you have Dr. Jill Biden working with educators and that kind of thing. So that, again, super, super helpful going forward. So I have to say, despite the calamities, despite the way teachers literally felt as if they were being held hostage by the demands of their school boards because their school boards were so busy trying to be, partisan, that they really didn't care about the actual people on the front lines. But you're going to see that really shifting forward and coming to a place where it is going to move forward and it is going to be secure. So I'm not getting a real clear timeline on this, but I can tell you, we are February. I'm going to say with a great deal of confidence that by time August and September roll around for sure, you can anticipate schools returning to what we would normally consider normal. And between now and then, there might be some staggered returns. There might be returns that are accommodated, either small class sizes or whatever, but things are going to move forward. So thank God, because you know what? We don't do well in this world without teachers. We really, really need them. And especially in the United States, they are really unsung heroes, and that needs to stop. And certainly for all of those parents who had to accommodate their sort of day-to-day routines so they could step in and play teacher to their children, I'm thinking that all of those parents now have a far greater respect and appreciation for exactly how difficult being a teacher is. But there's definitely going to be a return. It's not going to be a completely smooth rollout, but it looks as if slowly but surely things are going to start improving. Resources are going to come into play in such a way so that they can bring the schools online. Okay, and certainly trying to move ahead with that minimum wage. I don't know how that's going because for some reason, I'm thinking that it got hung up somewhere along the way. But trust me, things are going to continue to improve and change. And again, you know, the administration is plowing ahead and getting absolutely as much done as they possibly can for right now. But they still have time to go back and sort of scoop up some of the things that got pushed to the side and address them. So don't lose hope. All right, and I'm going to do fast because the trump card keeps coming up. And watch, it's not going to show up now, but I want to just take a quick look at how Trump is doing. Apparently, Melania is like crazy jealous over Joe Biden because Joe Biden, of course, is smart. People listen to her. She's respected. She's making another very, very classy first lady. And Melania apparently is jealous. And well, that's just too bad, right? I mean, you had the opportunity to really sparkle and shine. You chose not to do that. So there's no point pouting in a corner because life isn't going the way you want it to. Quick look at Trump, shall we? Quick look at Trump. Current news Trump, current news Trump, current news Trump. Yeah. So honestly, in his head, there's still a lot of calculating going on, a lot of trying to figure stuff out. He's also becoming very, very concerned about his finances. The law is coming after him, and he knows that. And he also knows that he is nowhere near in good enough condition, whether that be physically, mentally, or financially, to actually push back against the law. So part of the reason is because he only focuses on his finances, right? And so anything that is going to upset that apple cart, he reacts to sort of like with a vicious violence, right? And to the exclusion of everything else. So there's, you know, people like to say that Trump's really smart and there's a lot of strategy there. There is some, but honestly, there is not a lot. I have said before, I do not see him returning to politics in any significant capacity. I believe his support is going to, and his importance, I suppose, is going to continue to diminish and diminish. And, you know, look, you've got justice coming, and that's going to make him feel entrapped. It may seriously threaten perhaps jail time, which I'm not sure would happen, but definitely he is going to be in a position where he's going to try to be defending his behaviors. And it's just, again, it's not going to work because, and you're going to see when he does make public appearances or anything like that, you're going to see an increased scatteredness and that sense of he really does not have all of his mental faculties. And again, whether that is, drug induced or health induced, whatever it is, he's going to continue to sort of diminish, if you will. Yeah, he's just not going to be able to get out of this because you know why? He doesn't like to listen to his lawyers. He's only concerned about moving forward. He's not concerned about whatever destruction he leaves in his wake. And it's not going to be an easy road for him or a pleasant road for him. And you've got women coming after him. Oh boy, you've got women coming after him. And again, this is Temperance, of course. So this is the final thing to remember when it comes to that situation is, generally speaking, you are going to see a shift where people are becoming less and less willing to tolerate any sort of behavior or attitudes that do not reflect the current energies that are starting to settle in here on the planet. So people who are, or political parties or attitudes, businesses, whatever it is, who are not inclusive, who are not fair-minded, who, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, are really going to get sidelined because generally speaking, you have an energy that is global, that is about inclusion, compassion, care, people living with dignity, people living with enough resources to, to get by at the very minimum. So people who don't have that attitude are going to continue to become diminished. And I suppose that is the best news that we could have, really, when you think about it, because they need to be diminished. It's not in keeping with, frankly, the spirit or the energy of the planet. There you have it. There is my Good News Friday reading. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm off to go look at a house. So we'll see you soon. Until next time, take care, be well, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.